Hello, booktube. Welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is the book shopping tag. So this tag was originally created by Scientists Reading World. I've been seeing it floating around booktube over the past week or so, and I figured I actually have some new book mail, and I thought this would be a good time to pepper it in while answering these questions. So let's get started. The first question is, how do you buy books? Physically because you believe in the power of touch, or online because interactions are overrated? I mean, ever since COVID, it's mostly been online. But previously, my favorite way to get books was going to library book sales and just going through the endless lots of, dirt cheap books, but sometimes you find some real gems in there. And I would just walk out with, huge stacks of books. Of course, with COVID, now most of it's online, but now that so many things have opened, I'm trying to get back into the habit of going into bookshops again. So, it's mostly an online thing. Also, I'm somebody with very kind of niche interests that I'm not going to find very often inside bookstores. I'm not necessarily a bestseller reader. So just by default, I usually have to go online. But I do like going physically into bookstores. Number two, do you prefer bigger bookstores or smaller ones? I mean, I like the character of small bookshops, but as I just mentioned, my interests tend to be a little more niche, and small bookshops almost never have the kind of book that I'm looking for, or something that would really interest me. When I was younger, we still had a Borders near us, and in high school and really my college years still, we would just go to Borders and sometimes just spend hours. They had, or for a large bookstore, it was 2 stories, and just actually a really good selection, especially their history selection. You could find everything from academic works, kind of like smaller print academic works, to your kind of popular histories. But I never knew what I was going to find when I would go through there, and I would just spend hours sometimes, just kill an afternoon, sometimes with a friend, or we did every so often meet back up at the cafe, but just kind of go around and get books, and I miss those days. We do have a Barnes and Noble, not super close to us. They're several towns over, and it's okay. The selection isn't what Borders was, but if I'm in that area, I'll go in. But yeah, I would much prefer a bigger bookshop. Number three, do you prefer to buy books when they are brand new, being the first to touch them, it being in great condition? Or do you prefer used ones, books having character, history, personality? It really just depends on the price and condition. I'm okay with a secondhand book. Most of the books I have are secondhand, again from library book sales. That was my prime way of getting books. So I would be okay with a little wear and tear, as long as it wasn't too bad. I do like brand new books as well, though, but only if they're cheap. I never pay full retail price for books when they come out. If I can find them on sale for a decent price, and yes, I'll get something new. But generally, I get used books that are near new, and that's, I guess, my more ideal Goldilocks zone for that. Number four. Are you a coupon TLC level crazy person, or a full price Sweet 16 MTV? I don't know if I entirely understand the references in that. I'm aware that TLC is a show about people doing coupons, but that's about it. As I just kind of said, I never pay full price, but I also don't use coupons. I don't frequent places enough to have like a rewards program or something like that Barnes and Noble does. So now it's secondhand books, book sales, and every so often I might go into a store and splurge. But I have to really find the thing that I'm looking for if I do that. Number 5, read, research, analyze Sherlock Holmes-style, or impulse buyer like a shopaholic. Definitely not an impulse buyer. I always look into a book before I buy it. I either do some research, or now that I'm on booktube and I'm seeing booktube channels, sometimes that influences me to, pull the trigger and buy some things. Like, for instance, one example that I have that I recently got in the mail. Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads, he had shown, I think it was a digital copy of this book, on his channel in reference to the Reading Europe 2021 challenge that's been going on, that's been organized by Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. It's been a lot of fun. And this is a collection of short stories from around the world. And here on the back you can see some of the countries that these stories are from. And I also got it for the Euro challenge. I haven't been able to crack it open yet. It hasn't really been relevant. However, on Friday, I am now following Belgium. And if they lose to Italy, I do have a short story from Italy that I can read from here. But seeing this, I wasn't aware of its existence before. But see it on Greg's channel made me realize that this is something that I do want to own. Another thing that I bought, and I already made a video for it, but it was a recent arrival in the mail, relatively. And this was also for the Reading Europe 2021 challenge. The country that I was originally assigned was Portugal. And I'm not going into a lengthy explanation of the challenge, but essentially myself and a bunch of booktubers are following the European Soccer Championships. Mark, again at Book Time with Elvis, randomly assigned each of us a country to follow. And we read something from or about that country, and then if our country loses to another country, we read something about or from that country. So my original country was Portugal, who have now been knocked out, and I'd gotten this in the mail, and I'd already read it, or I have already read it since I got it. And this is The Last Day, Wrath, Ruin, and Reason in the Great Lisbon Earthquake of 1755. A really nice popular history that I made a video about a couple weeks back on one of my Fresh Read Kills episodes. So if you're interested in this book, you can check that out. I can show another book in a little bit that relates to the challenge, but also in relation to buying something purely for booktube. I just got this in the mail, and that's 3 Men in a Boat, To Say Nothing of the Dog, by Jerome K. Jerome. Again, this is a Mark from Book Time with Elvis. I believe he considered this his favorite book, or at least among his favorite books. And a bunch of us who were on the Reading Europe 2021 Challenge, the Voxer group, have been discussing having a group read of this. So I picked this up in anticipation of that, and I got this in the mail from Amazon. So again, all of these are mail arrivals. And I've managed to mostly flatten it out. But when it arrived with another object, and of course it was kind of squeezed into the envelope, and I wasn't too happy with the condition and the absolute negligent manner in which Amazon often packages books. But I'm mostly getting this one flattened out. But this is an edition that has the I guess the original illustrations as well. So I haven't read this, and I'm looking forward to it. It's supposed to be very funny. And I'll get to some of the other books that I read just a little bit, some of the other prompts. Number 6, a book or two at a time, or full cart pandemic style until the mailman dies. Yeah, I'm tempted sometimes to kill my mailman in this manner. But no, it's one or two at a time. This was a single book coming in. I had other things coming in from Amazon. My wife orders from Amazon a lot, especially with my son's 9th birthday coming up, so she's already buying all sorts of stuff for it. And every so often I kind of sneak a book into the cart before she presses purchase. So that came in by itself. All the ones I showed ended up coming in without any other kinds of books. However, if there's a book sale, like I said, library book sale, and I can get a bunch of books cheap and they're what I want, I have been known to walk out with a bag full, if not more, of books. So it completely depends on the circumstance. But yeah, you know, I'm not against buying tons of books at once. I just don't have the money. Number 7, new and recent releases are older and classics. Mostly older and classics. Like I said, I get a lot of things secondhand. I'm usually reading things that are a little bit older, sometimes very old, and I don't really have my finger on the pulse of what's new and released. I used to read like the New York Times book review, sometimes Washington Post as well. And I don't read them as much anymore, not because I'm not interested, but usually just because I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to read those sections. And that time that I do have, I try to actually read books. So if I had a little more leisure reading time, I would definitely read those things, and I'd be a lot more aware of what's coming out. But that just isn't my situation. Number 8. Are you a pre-order total fan freak, or wait till it arrives at the bookshop because it can wait? Kind of goes to my last one. 1, I'm too broke, and 2, I don't keep up with what's coming out. So no, I don't do any pre-orders. And my TBR is way too long. This room is filled with books that I still need to read. This is just one little section here. I've got a bunch behind me. It's in library all into itself. So no, I don't need to pre-order and get my hands on anything right away, because I got plenty of stuff to still read. And number 9, do you prefer special, expensive, beautiful covers, color edges, and unique editions, or is the inside of the book that counts? I would prefer both. I love a beautiful book, but I don't care if I own it if I don't like what's inside. And secondly, if I really like a book, I kind of want a decent copy. I am not certainly above buying a ugly, cheap copy as a placeholder until I find something nicer. And I have done that before, having like a beat-up paperback or something like that on my shelf, and then going to a library book sale, finding a decent condition hardcover, and getting rid of the other one. So that certainly does happen. And this kind of goes into the next one, I believe, right? So number 10, picture your favorite book. Do you show your love by buying multiple copies, or do you believe in single true love? I don't generally buy multiple copies for the sake of having multiple copies, but sometimes I will have that beat up read copy. And then, it's like a chewed up paperback. And then I eventually get, a nice hardcover. And sometimes those things sit side by side on the shelf for a little while until that shelf runs out of room, and then I start getting rid of the chewed up copies. So they're kind of there just to keep the books from tipping over, usually, until I can get more in there. And so we got number 11. Name your favorite places to bookshop. Physically, I did make a video back in April about the Book Barn over in Niantic, Connecticut, a terrific used bookstore. We have a small bookstore not too far from us called the Hickory Stick Bookshop over in Washington, Connecticut, and they're a nice little small mom and pop bookstore that I do like to pop into. Again, library book sales are my favorite thing. Online, yes, sometimes I go through Amazon. I do like certain other online retailers, like especially Hamilton Books, who is also out of Connecticut, I think Falls Village, north of where I am. And they usually have some really interesting historical selections. And I don't go to the site all too often because I know I'll get in trouble, and I'll just end up ordering way too much. And then my wife will wonder why all these boxes of books are coming in. And the other place where I get books is university press sales. I try to keep kind of email subscriptions for those. Oftentimes, academic works, especially from certain publishers, are just outrageously priced. And I'm somebody who does have an interest in horror studies, and that's true for a lot of those books. Some of them are just ridiculously expensive. So I wait for sales, and sometimes the sales are really good, and you can rack up a lot of academic books for a fairly cheap price. One that I've done that with is a Palgrave. They have a whole Gothic line and horror film studies, and sometimes their books retail from $60 to over $100. And there was, I think 2 years ago, they had a sale. All of their books were just, I think, $10 each or something. So I was getting things that usually cost over $100 for like 10 bucks. So that's what I do. And that's what I recently got from Rutgers University. They had kind of a spring sale just a few weeks back. So just show a couple of those things that I got. This is one that I read, and I talked about this on a Fresh Read Kills, again, just a few weeks ago, I believe. This is Soccer by Jean-Philippe Toussaint, if I'm saying that correctly. I'm not entirely sure. Translated by Sean Whiteshead. And I'm not entirely sure why Rutgers University Press published this. I don't know where it falls under under their brand. But it's kind of a part memoir, part travelogue in a way. I wasn't too impressed with it, honestly. Again, you can go back to that episode and read my thoughts on that if you like. But I also got, in that same order from Rutgers, I got Quick Takes, Zombie Culture. Rutgers does have a horror studies line, and I read earlier this year their Monster Cinema one, and these are like primers. These are for people who are being introduced to the subject. So I already know most of what's in here. And when I originally saw this on the sale, I almost didn't pick it up just because I knew how kind of just introductory it was. But then I saw that it was like it was actually a hardcover, and I think it was maybe $5, maybe $6 tops. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll take a hardcover of this for that price. So that's why I picked this up. But yeah, this is just kind of an introduction to zombie cinema. And the last thing, also zombie related, from Rutgers that I got was Going Viral. Zombies, Viruses, and the End of the World by Dahlia Schweitzer. And this looks at contagion narratives. Obviously in horror, zombie cinema, but just kind of flipping through, there were some non-horror examples as well. But it seems like a very kind of a post 9/11 world in which contagion was part of the fear. So this is one of the many that I look forward to getting to. But this looks very interesting. So yeah, those are my recent acquisitions, I guess you could say. Number 12 says tag people. A lot of people have done this already, and I'm catching up on tags, and I'm seeing certain tags like this, and I know I can just kind of do very quickly, just to kind of get myself filming again, because I had no time just previously in the last few weeks. So I'm kind of catching up on that. And because of all that, I'm kind of backing away from tagging people. As I said, a lot of people have already done this tag, and also knowing that I had no time to do tags, I don't really want to put that undue pressure on people. So if people want to do it and you haven't done this yet, certainly feel free. But yeah, that's it. That is the book shopping tag. So again, BookTube, thank you very much.